Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Rob Vino and Tony Finn of WagerTalk.com. We're talking Big 12 conference action on Saturday here, Tony. We get, this kicks us off, noon Eastern, Oklahoma and TCU. We're seeing the Sooners -6 in the hook on the road, 68.5 being the total, high total. You liking anything here in Fort Worth, Tony?
Yeah, well, I'm interested in this game. It's a game I want to watch for several reasons because I sure would like to have at least some kind of a trip handicap feeling, be it gut, be it logic, whatever, on the Sooners team off a loss. Under a new regime, new head coach, et cetera, et cetera. It's something that I pay attention to. I don't know that anyone else does, but I certainly do. And what happened last week, Kansas State again. Kansas State seems to be kind of that the old the nemesis, not just recently, but it just seems like ever since Stoops left and took some of the guys from Kansas State, that Kansas State's has always been able to play with much better Oklahoma teams. Let's say that. This game, the line's a little bit surprising to me. It really is. TCU's a team that I find very inconsistent. The SMU game over the weekend, they end up winning by 8. That was impressive to me. I don't know that it was anybody else, but when Oklahoma came out this year, they beat UTEP in going away blowout win. I think it was 45-10 something. The Sooners beat Kent State 33-3. And then in game 3, a game that really I thought was a test more so for Oklahoma than it was Nebraska, and they took Nebraska to the woodshed, guys. And now Adrian Martinez is playing for another team and doing his worst, right? The TCU side, listen, opened up against Colorado. This is a game I had as my top play in week 1. It was my big ticket play. I like TCU. More so, I like fading Colorado, and we still should be fading Colorado. But this game for me is all about Oklahoma. I mean, it's hard to use spreads. It's hard to use trends, should I say, because this is not the same Oklahoma team. It's not the same scheme. It's not the same coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. However, TCU struggled in recent years, and that's why they have a new coach as well. I've leaned toward Oklahoma. In fact, I have a few positions in this game, some props that I'm going to look at, and it's mostly about what I think Oklahoma can do, believe it or not, offensively. The fact that they would put up 550 yards and lose those kind of trends, I find playable the next time out. So it's one of the luck factors that come into play, but not in this room so heavily and so hard that someone couldn't change my mind. So I'll be anxious to see what Robert has to say. But as of right this minute, yesterday, today, and now, Oklahoma minus the points.
Tony Finn, ladies and gentlemen. Robbie, he brought up, coaching staffs here. Sonny Dykes coming in. Actually, 2 new coaching staffs, right. 2 new systems here. TCU hosting Oklahoma. Robbie, are you in the room in Fort Worth, Texas on Saturday?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money in the room, obviously. Looking at the way the game has jumped from 4.5 to 6.5, Oklahoma seems to be the popular side right now. Total has been bumped up 67.5 to 68.5. And, Drew, when you look at it, obviously the offenses are the best units on the field, right? But the question remains, when you're playing inferior competition, how good is your offense? For TCU, they're number 2 in the nation right now in yards per play. Only Ohio State gains more yards per play than TCU at 8.1 per snap for the Horned Frogs. And, of course, it's a Sonny Dykes offense, Garrett Riley offensive coordinator. We expect that. A lot of veterans back on the TCU team, and they've kind of taken to the air raid. But the opposition was Colorado, Tarleton State, and SMU. It's not really a who's who of defensive play. So how good are they? Oklahoma, number 7 in college football, 513 total yards per game. Number 11 in yards per play, 7.3. They scored more points last week in a loss, 34. than their opponent, Kansas State, had allowed all season long. K-State had only given up 29 points. Oklahoma whacked them for 513 and 34 points. So, when you put up 50 yards against Kansas State, that's impressive. So, again, the offenses are the best units on the field. However, when you're Oklahoma and you give up 509 yards to that vaunted Kansas State offense, that's not impressive. And you have to wonder how it got to that, because the first 3 weeks, Oklahoma under defensive-minded head coach Brent Pry, right? Drew, you talked about new coaching staffs. Let's talk about them for a second here. Brent Pry's defense, it had been better the first 3 weeks, and then it got smashed by Kansas State. And you have to ask yourself how Kansas State. And what I think you come up with here is Adrian Martinez is a dual threat quarterback, and Oklahoma had not seen one yet. Colin Schlee for Kent State is mobile, but Kent State's working with an offensive line that has 4 brand new pieces. Kansas State's working with a very physical offensive line and a dual threat quarterback who gave Oklahoma fits all day long. The defense faced 12 drives. 7 of those resulted in Kansas State scores. 6 of those were touchdowns, and 6 of those, they weren't cheap. Between 69 and 80-yard drives to score by KSU, a team that could only score 10 against Tulane the week before. So you tell me, I get the feeling that Oklahoma's defense is no better than it was last year, that they tackle no better than they did last year, and now they're trying to have to learn a new defensive system, which against quality opposition may be tough for them. Max Duggan, he's a mobile quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback. He absolutely lit up SMU last week. I think there is some question as to whether or not Chandler Morris, the starting quarterback for TCU to start the season, whether or not he'll come back from injury and play in this game. However, he too, dual threat. So maybe that's the weakness that we see here after 4 games out of Oklahoma, and perhaps TCU, especially with Sonny Dykes calling plays, and Garrett Riley can attack it the way Kansas State did, maybe even better. You'll probably see plenty of possessions and plays in this game. In Oklahoma's last 2 games, there were 160 total plays in the Nebraska game. There were 156 total plays against Kansas State, a team that wants to grind the game out. Kansas State had 83 plays last week, so we're going to see enough opportunity to get over. That's why I understand the line move there. But I think what might be even stronger, guys, is first half over. We're looking at 33.5. 5 of the 7 or 4 of the 6, 5 of the 6 games played by these two teams combined have scored 38 points or better, 4 times 40 points or better in the first half. So it may be that both of these defenses get riddled right away by the opposing offense. I wouldn't be surprised Dylan Gabriel has a monster game. Max Duggan has a monster game. Could be back to these Big 12 shootouts, especially where these two are concerned, because Sonny Dykes' teams are not known for playing any defense anyway. And again, like we mentioned earlier about defenses that are on the same team as an air raid offense, by the third, fourth quarter, you do get a little winded. So certainly total is in play here at 68.5, but I think I might choose first half over 33.5 just because of the way these two teams have played this year have been going. Very, very high scoring first halves by both.
Heard it from Rob Vino, Tony Finn as well. Check them both out, WagerTalk.com, guys. Also check out the live odds screen at WagerTalk. Best free live odds in the industry. Just the live odds tab. Check it out, WagerTalk.com.